Well, let me start off by why we're all here today. We've have been conducting two major investigations that led to the seizure of drugs and arrest. As you know, yesterday, because it was reported today, yesterday we seized 2 pounds of heroin, okay? And the arrested were in arraignment earlier today. Okay, well, today, on a separate investigation, we made arrest in the seizure of 16 pounds of crystal methamphetamines, which you see before me and before you. Let's talk about the significance here. You know, you hear of the negative day in and day out with this heroin epidemic, and sometimes we forget about the positives, and I am so proud of these deputy sheriffs and the other agencies that make up Reno and their body of work. We're talking in 2 days, 16 pounds of crystal methamphetamine, which is not made in the rear of someone's crock pot in the rear of their vehicle. This stuff comes from a super lab in Mexico. And also what is significant about what you see before you is approximately $1 million in street value. And also what you see before you is not only the largest seizure of its kind in the 42-year history of the Regional Enforcement Narcotic Unit, but this is the largest seizure of its kind in the state of Ohio. Prior to today, the largest known seizure of crystal methamphetamine was 13 pounds in Youngstown, Ohio in 2010. But thanks to the good work, and God bless you guys, the good work of the sheriff's deputies, Cincinnati police officer that make up our Reno unit, that they have made history today and saved our people here in Hamilton County, Cincinnati, and our region from this product, and the negative effects of this product, and the negative effects of the heroin that they seized yesterday. That's the good news. And I'm very proud. I am very proud as the sheriff of Hamilton County. This product, the source is out of Atlanta. It came to us by way of Atlanta. And the only other thing I got to say is, Sheriff Jones, you know, I didn't get a chance yet to do my 22 push-ups, but as you can see, I've been very busy. I'll get around to it. I owe you a challenge, and oh my gosh, this is just awesome. God bless you guys. You make a grown man cry here, because, you know, this hasn't gone away. Heroin is a big problem today, but this hasn't gone away either, this crystal meth. And the effects on the families, the effects on the human body are very similar with this product, just like heroin. You guys did a real good job. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
I want a real quick question. Who uses crystal meth? Where do you see it being used? Yeah, I honestly don't know. We talk so much about heroin, so let's talk about that. Would you mind at least
yeah.
audio? Yeah.
You don't want your face, correct?
Well, if you have to, you have to, but I would prefer you not. There's a growing group of people that have become methamphetamine addicts. If you research crystal methamphetamine on the internet, you will see that crystal meth, at least in Texas and some other border states, crystal meth has exceeded cocaine in the amount of drugs that are considered the most dangerous for their communities. Hamilton County, back in the 80s, it took us a while to get crack cocaine. It took us a while to get the heroin problem that we've got right now. Well, crystal methamphetamine's coming. It's just coming at a little slower rate, as most things do in the Midwest. But if you check the internet and a lot of other places throughout this United States, you'll see that crystal methamphetamine and meth addicts and overdoses with crystal meth are exceedingly high.
Can you speak to the quality of what we're looking at here?
Well, we haven't sent it to the lab, obviously, but super labs that make the methamphetamine in Mexico make among the finest of methamphetamine, and that's why it's in such demand, and that's why it's so expensive.
Can this be tainted like the heroin was and cause a problem?
I have not heard of crystal meth being tainted, but anything that gets manufactured in a clandestine way without, regulations and oversight certainly can have items in them which could harm someone more than just the crystal methamphetamine itself.
I'm struck, Lieutenant, going back to, and just because I remember this when he said it, but FBI Director Comey last summer said that get ready for a wave of crystal meth from
Yes.
Mexico, and it sounds like that's coming to bear now. Knowing that he had made that statement then, what were you able to do in the meantime to, well, obviously, a huge bust, so something's worked, but how much does that help to at least kind of know what's moving this way?
It's interesting that you say that because back in November, we did a press conference and we sent out, I think it was in November, we arrested an individual and seized 4.7 pounds of crystal methamphetamine that was sent here in ceramic watermelons directly from Mexico. And we work with Homeland Security investigators to make a delivery and an arrest in Carthage. So the appetite is increasing for crystal meth in this community. Otherwise, you wouldn't see these kind of seizures. Now, we know from this investigation that local people involved have been going to Atlanta for the last year to get crystal methamphetamine and distribute it to people both in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. So the numbers of people who are turning to crystal meth is increasing.
For the general public, can you tell us simply what the difference is between crystal meth and heroin, price-wise, reaction-wise?
I'm not an expert on the effects of the drugs, but crystal meth is a stimulant, and people that take crystal meth will be up for hours and hours and hours. And I think heroin's more of a depressant, depresses your system of breathing and everything else. So they act differently.
Could one person use both? I mean,
well,
in their life, or is one person basically going to stay on heroin or crystal meth? Or?
We don't deal with a lot of addicts to know what they could or couldn't use, but I guess you could use heroin at one port, and if you wanted to come back up, you could use meth to get you back up for a while. They've talked about over the years truck drivers using some sort of stimulant to try to keep them awake while they're driving, or students start methamphetamine to study and stay up, for what they think are legitimate reasons to use something, but when they get addicted to it, it takes over control of their life.
Price-wise, it seems like at 125 to 150 a gram, as you noted earlier, for crystal meth, that would be much more expensive, I would think, than a gram of heroin.
Well, actually, on the street of Cincinnati, heroin's about $150 a gram. So this could be a little bit less, depending upon the quality. And it all comes back to the amount you buy. You buy a gram or a half gram, you're paying, a lot more than if you can afford to buy ounces of heroin, which of course the addicts can't afford. They barely have enough money to get their fix each and every day.
To put it in perspective, a gram is about equal to that of a packet of Sweet and Low.
Sheriff, what do you say to the people out there, the drug users, the drug dealers? I mean, it's been a real big problem here lately, and this is probably just a start, right?
What I have to say is what I said, and I'll reiterate that the good news is that we, in 2 days, have gotten 18 pounds of some serious drugs off the street and saved local lives from that 18 pounds of heroin and crystal methamphetamines. And I don't think you have to say any more than that, is because this stuff is destroying the fabric of our communities and our families.
Regarding the heroin seizures and arrest, do you have any sense that the two people that were arrested are linked to this past stretch, 7-day stretch of overdose spikes, or the spike in overdose, excuse me?
What they are is they're linked to a group that's bringing the product into this area. Now, specifically, is it the same group that brought that product in? Only investigations can ferret out that kind of information. But the common denominator is they brought this in from Atlanta, Georgia, and we intercepted it, and we got 18 pounds of some serious stuff off the streets, saving hundreds of individuals from overdose, possibly even deaths, or any other negative adjective you want to add to it.
Can you talk about the arrest a little bit? I mean, was it,
Well,
did they resist
the
in any
arrest,
way?
you'll have all that. You have that in the press release as to who was arrested and all that. I just figure I would like to spend time talking about how significant what you see before you is. This is the largest seizure of its kind in the state of Ohio. Prior to this seizure, the largest seizure occurred in Youngstown in 2010, and it was 13 pounds. And we're talking crystal methamphetamines, which is manufactured in super labs. They're not manufactured in cookers in the back of, in a trunk of a car or or someone's shed or someone's, their mobile home or their home. Or in the woods. This stuff's produced in a super lab, and
Is it just because of the quantity of it, or?
the quality the quality of it. You don't get this kind of product out of these the local forms. What we dealt with in our recent history, not just us, but Kentucky and Indiana. These meth labs. This is not produced in a meth lab that you have traditionally been exposed to, and we've been exposed to. These come from a super lab.
I mean, the quality, the potency? Is that
Well,
what
you
you're
can
going
look at it and see that. You can look at it and see that there was a lot of care that went into this production.
This is an extremely addictive drug. The latest research says that approximately 5% or less of individuals that are addicted to crystal methamphetamines will ever be able to get off of it. And chronic use of this just simply leads to death.
That sounds familiar, don't it? Because 4% with heroin. So what we're talking about is taking a product off the street that chronic use ultimately will lead to death. Acute use can lead to death.
I'm wondering, maybe this is to you, Lieutenant, the users that you're seeing that are engaged with this kind of a drug, heroin, it's much has been made, it's older people from suburbia and so forth. What's the typical user? Are kids doing this stuff? Are you seeing it at parties? And
Younger.
Okay.
Younger crowds. And similar to heroin, it goes out into the suburbs. We've identified people in Indiana that were coming into Cincinnati to get the crystal meth, and then Kentucky and Indiana come here to get it and go back out like heroin, back out to their communities.
Sir, could you just briefly touch on the importance of the narcotics agents getting this as it's coming in, so that before it even starts to get disseminated, how difficult it is once it's in our community?
Well, you already answered your own question, but once this product gets into the community, what happens is it's broken down and it's disseminated out. It's very rare and hard to get a quantity of this size, and once it's disseminated out, there's going to be smaller quantities all over the place, and it's harder to gather that up. When you can get a seizure from the main source before it's broken down and distributed, because once that happens, you might pick up an ounce or two here or there, or maybe a pound if you're lucky, from someone, but you're not going to get six. This is very rare. What you see before you, I'm telling you all, this is very significant. This is historical today. Now we have a new record in the state of Ohio for seizure. And usually you don't find it in bulk amounts like this because it's been brought into a community, it's been disseminated to lower level dealers to push out in all directions in all communities. This stuff would have gone into not only Ohio, but Indiana, Kentucky.
Is this how it was found, Sheriff, or was it concealed? Did it come in all at once?
Exactly like that, in
Exactly
that
like-
bag. That's the way it was delivered to us. Just
Yeah.
like that.
It was.
Delivered to you or found?
Delivered to us,
Meaning,
meaning an undercover sting operation.
okay, so not exact, we don't know exactly.
It wasn't an interdiction, these were undercover agents.
This is a result of an investigation.
And that was my first statement that I made. This is one of two investigations. Investigations, we're talking about investigations that some go on for even over a year before we can effect an arrest and bring closure. You know, so we're talking a period of time involved here. This just doesn't happen. The seizure and the arrest occurred today, but the time involved in this, a lot of man hours. Woman hour too. You know, people hours. People hours.
I guess the last thing that I can think to ask is that we've just been awash in this heroin stuff of late. We're all overwhelmed by it, fatigued by it, and just obviously you guys are as well. Parents are watching this right now thinking, are you kidding me? Now that we're dealing with this, this is just unbelievable, I think.
Yeah, heroin is a big problem in our area, but this product is a big problem in other areas of our great nation. It's just that today, between yesterday and today, both drugs that are a big problem in the United States became a problem in Hamilton County, and we were able to get 18 pounds of this problem off the street. That's what we're talking about in 2 days, 18 pounds of this problem.
2 of heroin today?
Yesterday, 2 pounds of heroin. Today, 16 pounds of crystal methamphetamine. And that's 18 pounds of big problems off the streets.
Huge problems, because as you know, behind the use of all this is also a lot of criminal activity, because people quite simply can't afford this drug, so they do whatever it takes to get it. And so now we've just taken 16 pounds of it off the street.
Possibility of robberies, shootings.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
car break-ins, you name it, aggravated burglaries. It runs the gamut.
Because the transactions don't always go smoothly, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is people can't afford the product, so they do whatever they can do to get the money to buy it.
Yeah, drugs is driving not only the crime in our community, but driving violence as well. You know, violence for the control of it, for the flow of it, and then the crime for a lot of those that are looking for a way of affording the product, of buying it. So they're stealing to liquidate the product that they're stealing to buy this stuff.
Anything else? Can I do one pose photo? I know you guys love this stuff, but can you get the glove back on and maybe just sort of tilt?
Yeah, you don't want to touch that.
On the other side.
Do not
And then
touch
you guys,
that.
Again, keep their faces out. but
Do not touch
You can
that.
see their hands and gloves, and Sheriff and Chief, if you're standing behind there, I'd like to.
This is interesting.